So actually, a lot of what happens when we're sitting is different degrees of Shenpa. So if you have, if you're sitting, you're with your breath, and then there's just this little movement of the mind almost. It's quite somewhat subtle. Doesn't take you away. It's like just maybe a murmur or a few words or something like this. If you should have such an experience, sometimes you don't really even need to label because you're hardly gone. So you might call that the most subtle of Shenpa, you know, like non-life-threatening Shenpa. Now, of course, whether this has been clear or not, the purpose of the meditation isn't to get rid of thoughts, because actually that's impossible. It's the nature of mind to think in the same way that it's the nature of the sky to have clouds. But also, you know, sometimes the clouds part and there's a lot more space, and we also experience that in meditation sometimes. But a lot of our ongoing meditation is poking holes in the clouds. In other words, a lot of clouds and kind of forgetfulness about breathing the out-breath or the in and out-breath. And then we realize that we've been thinking, we acknowledge it, and we come back. So there can be just that little very, very, very subtle Shenpa. And then we experience on our meditation all degrees of it. So then there's the, like, 2 sentences in. The thought is like 2 sentences long, and there's a kind of like recognition, and again, you might not even label because hasn't really taken you away very far, but you realize you've been gone and you just come back, and it's very, very easy. So that's, you know, more Shenpa, but not really very much. The hook is just not so strong. But then, as we know, there are the sessions where you've actually written War and Peace, and you know, or a whole libretto, and actually been all the characters in the opera or the film script or whatever it is, and planned whole meals, taken vacations, relived horrific experiences and worked it out, so this time you said the right thing. And there's a lot of this which is totally unconscious. I think it's best expressed by the common expression, lost in thought, just gone, you know. So much so that when the gong goes, it's just like, amazing to find yourself that you've been sitting here this whole time probably with your eyes open, and nevertheless you weren't here. That's greater Shenpa. So really, you don't have, you're not being asked or even suggested that you change the technique at all, but I think it's very helpful to know that that's the relationship between what I've been teaching and the practice that you've been doing. And then this morning I talked about, you know, acknowledging and then doing something. I mean, all along I've been talking about acknowledging and then doing something different. Well, believe me, coming back to the breath is doing something different, something dramatically different. And interestingly enough, it is like a pause, and you are with the breath, either with the in and out breath or with just the out breath. And then when I was talking about connecting with the basic goodness or our Buddha nature or the big sky, and that's like there's that possibility when you're back, when you're here with the immediacy of your experience, the immediacy of just here in your body with the breath, there's the possibility there of things beginning to open up and connecting with big sky. So what I was referring to as positive groundlessness also during these talks, I think really the experience of the big sky mind and the expression positive groundlessness, they're the same thing. And maybe it's coming at it from the point of view of big sky mind is like when things open up and there's the feeling of expansiveness and insight and out of the cocoon. And maybe the other, positive groundlessness, I use that expression for more when you feel it is somewhat scary and threatening, that you're sort of there without the props of all the Shenpa and all the thoughts and all the emotions, and there's this unfamiliar state of openness and just being there with just breath and nothing else going on. And maybe then you could think of it as positive groundlessness, as something that's worth hanging out in until it becomes something you can relax with and feel comfortable about. So the term positive groundlessness, I bring it in because people do in their regular life when they start practicing this way, and in their meditation, you do. Many, most of us encounter times of uneasiness and you could call it anxiety, or that it's not familiar. You don't have the usual ground. And that, just think of it, it's the same thing as the big sky, but you could call it positive groundlessness. So I hope that helps and brings together some connection between the practice that we're doing and the technique that Ani Trime has introduced you to, and that you've been doing here this weekend.